Welcome, everybody, to episode 6 of the Thundercraps podcast. We're your hosts on this journey, forging us through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I am Josh Kaiser, and joining me today is a friend of Louie Spicolli, one Mr. Josh Haddix.
What's going on, everybody?
And the man whose body was sculpted by Michelangelo himself, Kyle Hoagland.
Who did they actually say that about again?
I think Buff Bagwell.
Yeah, Buff Bagwell. Yeah.
I do have the stuffed Oreos. That is.
The double stuff.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody?
How's it going, guys? We are, of course, back. We are here. It's February 12th, 1998. It is WCW Thunder, and it doesn't get much better than this, does it?
I mean, we're in Oklahoma City. It's loaded by the thousands, and we're only 10 days away from the biggest rematch in professional wrestling history.
You gotta love the hyperbole from Tony Schiavone, right?
I mean, no one else even comes close to how there's things later on that I've called out when they start talking about like other things that are coming up soon. I think Tony Schiavone kind of blows his gasket a couple times during this particular episode.
It's what he does best, really, because this is the hottest ticket in town. We're in Oklahoma City. It is Thunder.
Oklahoma City Thunder? Wow.
Hey, there you go.
You know what's sad? I bet you none of us realized that until just now.
Just now. Of course, Schiavone's here, Heenan's here, and Stagger Lee Marshall is here, which, Haddix, I know it's been commented and mentioned every week. They call him Stagger Lee Marshall. We haven't talked about it on the podcast, but you finally questioned, why do we call him Stagger Lee?
Where's Stagger? Yeah.
Hoagie,
I mean, it's weird. It's weird that you could just Google it.
Yeah, you read the Wikipedia.
Well, I mean,
to Haddix's point, it's not a nickname for Lee Marshall himself. It is a play on Stagger Lee.
Yeah, like what if you looked up the origin of Stagger Lee Marshall, you're not going to get anything. So
correct.
Yes, I will give you that. No, it was.
Kyle, why
we looked
don't you
it
give
up
us
just before
the nickel tour of the nickel explanation, I guess I should say, from what Wikipedia told us about Stagger Lee.
So Stagger Lee was actually a pimp in the late 1900s, and he was just like kind of notorious for being like considered one of the Macs, which once again was like a group of I guess like 4 pimps. They were known for dressing like I guess like the costume pimps that you would be used to seeing, like guys wearing their boas and the crazy the Godfather jackets, that type of stuff. But he was famous because he had another business kind of partner that he murdered named Billy Lyons in 1897 or 1895, and it was just I guess I said that part's not important, but basically, to put it short, he was a pimp, and a lot of people wrote a lot of songs about him, including the Grateful Dead and among others.
Okay, all right.
So there you have it. You
there
learned
you go.
something. Some of our fans learned something, I'm sure. That said, let's get into it. The show there, the commentary booth is letting us know what we've got to look forward to tonight. Of course, Ric Flair and Lex Luger in a main event, so that could be a main event worthy match. Of course, it's on Thunder, so it's likely going to end in a disqualification, just like the first 5 main events have been. We've got Goldberg up against his toughest foe yet in Glacier, and Raven versus Chris Benoit in a rematch that, of course, happened this past Saturday night on WCW Saturday Night. So a stacked card from top to bottom, if I ever saw a stacked Thunder card.
Isn't this like the 3rd or 4th time Raven and Chris Benoit have fought? I thought they fought at the pay-per-view.
They fought at the pay-per-view. I think they fought on Thunder a couple of times. They had the Saturday night match. I feel like they are just wrestling left and right.
It's like I feel like Raven has only been around or from what it feels like, because obviously we started in January of '98. I feel like he's only either wrestled Chris Benoit or Mari Jannetty.
It has seemed that way, and I don't know if you're necessarily wrong. We get our first sign of the night. It's McVeigh and Davis suck dick, which just made me laugh that these are the signs that get on television in 1998. These would not be seen anywhere on Vince's television these days. I don't know who McVeigh.
I would think that when people put stuff on the network, don't they think that they would look through this and be able to?
I mean,
gray out some things.
There's an episode of Raw where Triple H gets a woman to show her tits, and it's not edited out.
Yeah, I saw that on Reddit.
So they're not watching it that closely, Kyle. I mean, we're digging deep. We are delving deep into Thunder, and
we're the only ones even watching Thunder. Okay,
well,
let alone
that could be it too.
Yeah.
So I'm the one who's pausing it every time I see some signs in the background, and I just happened to see the word "suck dick," and it caught my eye.
That makes me laugh.
So that is the first sign of the night. They're starting here hot in Oklahoma City. And I got to say, quick honorable mention, there are so many South Park knockoff signs out in the crowd where you remember that back in the day where everybody was a South Park character? You see,
you do that. Just for people also don't know this, our boy Kaiser here also had a wrestling website where he also dabbled in having a lot of the South Park wrestling icons and stuff like that.
I was cutting edge, all right? Leaking faucet gifts and all right? Moving into the opening segment of the night, it's Hollywood Hogan, it's Eric Bischoff. They're kicking off with some of their high profilers here. And this is also where we're going to see our second sign of the night that says Hogan fears pork chop. I don't know.
I swear we've seen this before. I swear I've seen a pork chop reference multiple times or at least this is not the first time I've seen a something fierce pork chop.
Apparently, maybe there's a reference there. We might have to dig into that for the future. But for now, it's just Hogan fears pork chop. As for the segment itself, basically the NWO is declaring war on anybody who is siding with WCW.
Which I feel like they already were.
I thought that was kind of the gimmick of NWO. But they said it's from Ted Turner all the way down to the guy who's watering plants. The crowd here is anti-NWO. You hear a lot of Hogan sucks chants. And Hogan starts saying, number one on, or I think he was saying like A and B on his list, and says Bret Hart has made his way onto Hogan's hit list, and says he'll beat Bret from one end of Canada to the other. So he's all of a sudden calling out Bret Hart, and calls out Randy Savage and says they need to address this NWO family issue that they've got going on. So out comes Randy Savage. Of course, we've discussed everything that's been going on between them all, for the past couple weeks. Hogan says he knows when he is right and when he is wrong, and says an apology is necessary. And then he says Bischoff booked the match for this coming Nitro, coming up Monday. Macho Man and Hogan are going to be wrestling Lex and Sting, and says Sting will be stung by Hogan. And that says, and Macho Man, he basically tells Macho Man that, hey, you can get a little head start on Luger with the upcoming pay-per-view. And then he basically starts bashing Randy and says, you fumbled the ball, you can't climb the ladder of success here. You need to thank Eric for making this match, and you should look me in the eye. And this apology that Hogan was setting up was actually a sort of a swerve. The apology needs to come my direction. Basically saying that, Randy needs to apologize for not living up to the expectations that he should have as a member of the NWO. And Macho Man then, of course, turns back on him and says, yeah, he apologizes that he didn't do this sooner, and he attacks Hogan and Bischoff. This is going to lead to Hogan grabbing a chair, and Macho Man's going to clear out. And they, it kind of ends with the announce team basically saying that we've got a great tag match for Nitro coming up. I just don't understand this. I don't know if it's just me. Like, why would Hogan basically do this swerve and dupe Macho Man and say, you need to apologize to me. I'm, grovel at me right after he announces that, hey, we're tag partners for Monday night. Does that make any sense?
I don't know about you guys, but I thought this whole promo was kind of bad. Like, it's almost like he mentioned the match before he was supposed to or something like that, and then I just thought the whole thing was weird. And it doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, the order of events doesn't make sense where you're like, hey, you and I are going to have to coexist and get along, but first I'm going to do something that's going to make you really pissed off.
But I feel like he caught himself at one point because he's like, but before that, you know what I mean? He kind of like, it was almost like he jumped the gun on that part.
It was, it was weird. Well, let's say for argument's sake, he did jump the gun, right? So let's say he was supposed to come out here and say, hey, Randy, apology is necessary. You need to apologize to me. And then Randy says, Randy goes on him. And then they say, oh, by the way, we've got a match tagging up together Monday night. does that make any more sense than, like...
No, this makes the most sense because he starts off the very beginning of it being like, look, we're trying to patch things up. You and I are going to be tagging together. We're going to get ours against the people that we really are enemies against. He even starts at the beginning making all of us think that, okay, Hogan's going to apologize to Savage. I didn't believe it for a single bit, but once again, this is 33-year-old me. If this was 13-year-old me, I probably would have fallen for it.
Can't fool Kyle on this one, guys.
No. It was just the way he worded it.
Hulkster.
Yeah, there's the way he worded it. Like, we know that an apology is in order. Instead of just saying, I owe you an apology.
It was blatantly obvious where he was going with this.
Yeah, I think either way it was jacked up because, you wouldn't – if he was coming out there to bury the hatchet, you wouldn't then say, well, you need to apologize to me, though. So, yeah,
well, at the same time, though, it made sense that he did it at the beginning because he's going to say all the positive things that with him and Macho, like, hey, we got this match, we're going to work together, you're going to get you're going to get your licks on Luger, I'm going to take care of Sting, I'll handle all of our business, and then as soon as everything seemed like they're going to be on the same page, then he does the old bait and switch and goes, oh, by the way, you better thank Eric Bischoff publicly for giving you this match, and you better apologize to me for basically dropping the ball when we needed you. Like, I think the setup was correct. But once again, I think from common sense, like if wrestling wasn't real, it would not make sense for you to do all that and be like, oh, by the way, we gotta be buddies and take care of these guys in a tag match after I basically just like dressed you down.
Right, basically just told you that it's just not working between us. So I don't know. I would even think on Monday night, like, how do you even pretend like you're going to have a tag team match here? But we're not worried about that. We're only focused on Thunder here, so let's move along. After this promo, the commentary sort of has a little time to discuss and kind of digest what happened here with the NWO. Heenan, of course, is still talking shit to about Mr. Hogan. And then we get our opening bout of the night. Prince Iaukea, the former television champion, in case you didn't know. They'll let you know. Versus Kidman, of course, accompanied by Lodi. Haddix, as somebody who probably has not seen Prince Iaukea yet, what are your thoughts?
I mean, he wasn't horrible. The no shoes thing was weird, but he didn't look horrible in the ring. I'm going to have a theme here with all these matches. And you probably saw it in my notes, Kaiser, but I feel like there was one match tonight where I could not have guessed who was going to win.
Yeah, I was laughing because you kind of had your predictions each one.
Yeah.
Just about called
and I mean,
100%.
It's not even close. And I feel like that's kind of been a common theme here. But again, when this happened, I said, obviously, Kidman's going to win. He's the one that we've been seeing every Thursday night, So, but Prince Iaukea was whatever.
At the same time, though, you got to remember Prince Iaukea is a former world television champion.
Former world television champion.
Yeah,
which they will make sure to mention
for the next 5 years.
I think required at least 4 times per match.
Yeah. So not much to talk about with this match itself, other than Louie Spicolli jumps onto the commentary, kind of kicks Lee Marshall out, takes over here in commentary, which I think we all appreciated. And I had to laugh, and I think you probably all caught it too, guys. Louis basically says something to Shivani along the lines of, hey, you shouldn't be saying anything about bombshells here in Oklahoma City. Of course, referencing the Oklahoma City bombing. And it gets awkwardly quiet on the commentary booth.
I love that Shivani didn't even entertain that comment.
Didn't anything. You could tell it was probably one of those like, oh shit moments. I can't believe Spicolli just did that.
But then again, I mean, once again, maybe Spicolli knew he wasn't long for this world, so he's just gonna drop some gems.
Well, he went out well. Anyways, as for this match, we get our third sign of the night. It's Ravens Croc. So good one, Oklahoma City. And Louie Spicolli starts talking about Larry Zbyszko and calls him basically somebody who's out of shape and just eats pizza and cookies all day. And at one point, they pop up on the TV voice of Louie Spicolli, almost like you know if there's a caller coming in like who's not normally there, it lets you know. And it pops up there, and he's like, "Hey, that's me." I was thoroughly enjoying Louie Spicolli's commentary during this match.
Was there any reason for him to come out during this match?
He's done it a couple times. If I watched Nitro and Saturday night, he actually has shown up and join the commentary every once in a while.
They were toying around a lot on Thunder, too, about what they wanted their commentary team to be, which is why you see a lot of rotations, even in our early stages of watching. And I think even this, Louie Spicolli, let's see how he does with it. And then in some regard, it helps push storylines without having to have Spicolli in the ring this week, that kind of thing.
It's also live television, so it's also possible that Lee Marshall had to take 2 giant dumps throughout the night and had to keep on leaving.
That's true. During this match, though, we're going to cut to the back because why not? And you see Raven sitting back there, and out comes Mortis. Haddix, this is going to be your first time seeing Mortis. What did you think about the Mortal Kombat Reptile ripoff?
Dude, they've done that. Well, we'll get to the second one that happens tonight, but it's so weird to me. So weird how they've shifted away from gimmicks, and then they have one that's as ridiculous as this. It was weird.
Basically, it's Mortis wants to join Raven's flock. Raven's asking if James Vandenberg, who is Mortis's manager, made him wear this costume, and tells him that the only way, all it takes to follow me is to not be afraid to be laughed at or scorned. Oh, also, you have to beat Diamond Dallas Page tonight. So, Mortis
that's 99% of it.
Right. Yeah. Mortis has a heavy task in front of him in order to get into Raven's flock, which is, I feel like, stipulations and that the rest of the flock did not have to abide by to get into. And
I mentioned this later on for that match, but apparently Raven can just make matches however he wants on Thunder.
Raven's rules, he also books. So,
yeah, I guess.
We will go back to the match, and Louie Spicolli actually mentions that he was hypnotized at one point. And eventually this match is going to end. Iaukea is going to miss his guillotine leg drop. This is going to lead to the shooting star press, which Louis is going to bet the house is going to be the finisher. And that is your match. I gave it 2 stars. I actually thought this match was okay, and had we not cut away to Mortis and Raven in the middle of it, it actually might have been an okay, like a better than okay match for who was, for Prince Iaukea and Kidman. But we really missed a majority of the match, so that's what I thought. Haddix, what did you think?
Oh, I gave it 1.75, basically the same thing. Thought it was a mad match. There was a couple missed spots in there, but I guess you'll have that. I did note that Louie on the announce team was the best part of the match. So
I gave it 2 stars. Match was okay, but I think we discussed this before. With other shows with WCW, is this whole cutting away completely from the action for something. If you're going to do that, it better be worth it. Like, even before, I think we used to be pretty critical about, like, hey, there's a match going on. Oh, but here comes Hogan coming out of his limo. Like, who gives a shit? He's on the fucking show. Like, that's his job. Like, that shouldn't be a cutaway from the action because Hogan showed up if he's supposed to show up. The fact that the commentators made it sound like, oh, we got something going on in the back. Let's go back now. And it's just like Raven just sitting on the floor having a chit chat with Mortis, like as if they knew of that. Like, that just felt so like inorganic.
Honest, yeah.
Like, it'd be one thing like if it was like, 2 dudes like battling it out and it's like it just happened and they happen to have a camera crew back there. But this was just like, how did the camera crew happen to just be standing in front of Raven going, oh, we know something's gonna happen soon. Let's cut to this guy. I get it. It's a story that they're telling, but I wish that there was a little bit of, like I said, I wish it felt more organic than that.
Unfortunately, it does not. After this, we're going to get the commentary team, which right now is still Spicolli, Heenan, and Schiavone. They're discussing the Steiner brothers, who did win the tag titles against the Outsiders from Nitro a couple days ago. And Spicolli continues to push that he is friends with Larry Zbyszko. But Schiavone's not buying that, much like Kyle probably wasn't buying it because nothing gets by 33-year-old Kyle Hoagland when watching Thunder.
This is true.
We're going to get our Steiner Brothers promo showing them as champs, and then it shows the Outsiders winning and the rift between Scott and Rick. And I don't know about you guys, it felt very seizure-inducing to me with how they kind of were strobing the visuals the entire time. And the announcement is made. There's a rematch at Super Bowl between the Outsiders and the Steiner Brothers for those tag titles. Then we get our next match of the night, Ming versus Hugh Morris. And this is where we're going to get our 4th sign of the night. Buff smells like stuff. Not sure what that means, but still pretty good stuff. No pun intended there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Louie Spicolli they're talking about Super Brawl. Louie said he's going to have to buy his ticket since he's not going to be wrestling. And he calls out the former Dungeon of Doom connection that we got here between Hugh Morris and Ming, which we kind of mentioned last week about, all that Dungeon of Doom stuff. So glad that Spicolli's mentioned Dungeon of Doom. And during this match, Tony Schiavone's going to be handed a brand new match announced for Super Brawl. Larry Zbyszko versus Louie Spicolli. That's a match that we're never going to unfortunately see because, of course, Louie Spicolli is going to only be around for 3 more days following this Thunder. And
he actually dies the day, like the morning of the pay-per-view, I think.
No, I think he
dies on a Sunday.
He dies on the 15th, doesn't he? And we're 10 days away from Super Brawl.
Okay, you're right.
And Hugh Morris is going to miss as far as this match goes, Hugh Morris is going to miss the No Laughing Matter after Jimmy Hart's going to move Ming. I don't know about you guys. I don't know how the ref did not know that like Jimmy Hart was interfering and moving Ming out of the way. Really bad refereeing work. This is going to lead to a super kick and the Tonga death grip for Ming. Ming will be your winner. For me, this is a star and 3/4 match. I was not crazy about it. Like I said, the ending kind of sucked, and not fun for me. Haddix, what about you?
Star and 3/4 as well. Another match that I could have guessed the winner. I guess I'm a little curious to see if they take this whole Ming snapping storyline anywhere. But if they don't, this match was completely pointless.
I gave it 2 stars because I think this is about as good as a match as I think that they could probably do. I kind of went into this match. I kind of do the same thing that you do, Haddix. Like you kind of like make an honest opinion about who you think is going to win the match. And even though my first inclination was that Ming would win, at the same time Hugh Morris has been winning. So it's like I'm not sure what direction the company was going.
I would agree with you on that one, Kyle. I think this is one of the few matches of the night that I would, it could have been like a 55-45 in favor one way or another, trying to pick the winner here, and I could have seen it go either way.
Yep, and then the match is what it is. I actually really enjoyed. Sometimes like if the commentators don't really talk about the match, they're actually just having their own little like discussions about something else, and sometimes it's annoying. Like, come on, like guys, talk about what's on TV. The whole Spicolli and Heenan bouncing back and forth with Schiavone was actually thoroughly entertaining during this match, and that was actually more fun than watching the match. So I actually gave it a little bit higher rating.
You rated the match higher because of the entertainment of the commentary not talking about the match. All right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I think it actually wasn't bad. That's what I'm saying. I think like it was actually something I was interested in listening to.
After the match, Ming is not going to release the Tongan death grip, so Jimmy Hart's going to call out the Barbarian, of course, Ming's tag partner. Ming is going to let it go, and then he's going to put it on the Barbarian. So Ming is, to your point, Haddix, starting to snap. Maybe there's more to it. And then Ming's going to even go after Jimmy Hart. So I don't know whether this is a face turn for Ming or just Ming just being like this uncontrollable monster. After this, we're going to get the Mortis joined by James Vandenberg, who, Kyle, you mentioned looks just like James Lipton. I could not think of the guy's name, so I'm glad you had it in your notes because it was driving me nuts.
Also, every single time they said their name, I kept on thinking of James Vanderbeek. I couldn't get that name out of my head. So then I started calling him Lipton.
It's fair enough. Wrestling versus DDP, of course. I don't know whether the United States title's on the line, but I do know a chance to join Raven's flock is on the line, so that might even be bigger. James Vandenberg is going to tell Mortis that Raven is a loser, so that's a good way of trying to get him to not join Raven's flock. And at one point, I got to mention the top rope neck breaker here. This could have turned out to be really ugly. It didn't. It worked out okay, but man, it did not look like it was timed well at all.
I think it was interesting knowing that Mortis Canyon, however you want to call this guy, does this neck breaker, but then he has if you know this too, Kaiser, that like not even like a year from now, he will also be part of another kind of infamous neck breaker with Villano 5.
Call. Yeah, you're right.
So I feel like him and Raven both, all their moves are very snap. Like everything they do is very quick and snap. And this neck breaker definitely could have gone horribly. Could have snapped. But yeah, I just as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that kind of reminded me of Volano 5 or 4.
Yeah, great.
They all look
great
the same.
Parallel. Of course, DDP is going to get a diamond cutter and win this match. Yeah, I gave it a star and 3/4 again. I thought it was just an okay match, but really not that good. The two of you kind of disagree a little bit. Haddix, what'd you think?
I gave it a 2 1/4. I thought this was to me, this was like an average match on Thunder. DDP always puts on, at least an average match, sometimes better. But again, I don't think you're bringing your A game Thursday night against Mortis. But again, my only downside to this is, did anyone think that DDP was not going to win?
With the stipulations that they were, I really thought that this was the turning point for Mortis' career.
Well, I said once again, considering that DDP is supposed to fight Benoit in 10 days for a rematch for the title, this is the thing that always gets me weird about why they have so many title matches when they have a build match for the pay-per-view that they're promoting. Like, of course, DDP is going to hold on, is gonna retain. Of course, Jericho is going to retain. Like all the guys that have titles going towards a promoted match at a pay per view, it does not make sense to be like, hey, let's just totally throw that in the toilet and have a title change hands on Thunder. I gave this 2 1/4. I thought there's some nice spots. Once again, that neck breaker kind of scared me, but then again, you and I, Kaiser, at the very least, would know if DDP just died in that match, so we would have known that. But
I think a lot of us would have known if DDP died in that match.
Right. But like the crowd loves DDP, and I always laugh that after he wins a match, it seems like he just like goes in the crowd and goes to the concession stand.
Sometimes you need a snack after a tough match against Mortis.
Or we go find that guy with his girlfriend. He made her like carry like 8 snacks with her.
Oh yeah, still an MVP. After the match, though, we are going to have a little post-match shenanigans from Raven's Flock because out comes Sick Boy, Riggs, Saturn, Hammered, Kimmin, Lodi, the whole deal. And I think Heenan mentions that there's it's Heenan, it might have been Lee Marshall, that mentions there's almost $4 worth of clothes here between the entire group.
I like to think it's Heenan. I like to give no credit to anything funny to Lee Marshall.
It's probably fair. I should have written it down here, but I don't remember off the top of my head. They're going to drag Mortis to the entrance ramp where Raven's there to give him an even flow DDT, which he takes fantastically. It looked brutal, didn't it?
Yeah, God, it did.
I just like that they now are calling it the even flow. I think it's the first time we've heard it.
It is. You're correct, yeah. After this, we're going to get our first replay of the night. It's Mongo McMichael versus British Bulldog on the January 26th edition of Nitro, where Bulldog's going to win with a sloppy, ugly-looking power slam. And then fast forward to the February 2nd edition of, I think, Nitro as well, where...
It's Nitro.
Mongo said...
It wouldn't be Thunder. We've watched all Thunders.
Yes, I was trying to think that I see this. Where Mongo says he underestimated Bulldog the previous week on Nitro and says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It's the old Texas saying. And
pretty sure that's just a saying, right?
Yeah, that's Mongo for you. They're going to brawl to a double countout, so it looks like they've still got some, some unanswered feud going on here between Bulldog and Mongo, and that's going to lead to our next match where Mongo's going to be wrestling Bulldog's good friend, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, which kind of sets up exactly what's going to happen in this match. The match starts pretty quickly, it leads to, I think at one point, an ugly 3-point stance shoulder tackle by Mongo. And then Mongo's going to grab the stairs, and he kind of struggled with these stairs.
I don't think he struggled. I think he was waiting for Bulldog.
Yeah, he was supposed to get interrupted.
And then Bulldog pulled a Lex Luger and waited.
And took his time. And that may have been exactly what it was, because it looked like I was like, what is he doing? And then, of course, like you said...
Well, dude, we know that the myth, or I guess the legend of the Steel Steps is that they weigh like 1,000 pounds.
It's true. So to your point, Bulldog is going to come out... tell Mongo, basically they're going to say, don't use the stairs. The ref's going to throw the match out for some reason. instead of disqualification. I didn't even think we should rate this match because there really wasn't a match here. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about this quote-unquote match?
Not really. The only thing I did have a rating. I said a 1.5 even though the match got thrown out. I wasn't sure if whether or not this should have just been a DQ win by Mongo, considering that Bulldog came out and interfered in a sense. That's what I would have assumed.
Wouldn't he have gotten DQ'd if he used the stairs, though? I mean,
once again, this is WCW. The refs kind of decide, they seem to not care if you use weapons on the outside.
WCW refereeing is whose line is it anyway? Really.
And also, yeah, who's reffing, and also does it make sense for the story? But I'm glad that no one wanted to see this match anyways. I'm glad it ended as fast as possible, and at least a story is sort of being told. They're continuing the old Mongo Bulldog feud, whatever that's worth. The only question I also had was,
why are they bringing
are
Bruce
the
Bulldog
Horsemen
into
a
feud
thing
with
in
Mongo?
'98? No, the Horseman a thing, or is it just Mongo that's like the lone horseman that's doing the poses? Like, no one's coming out together. Flair's not exactly like coming out there talking about the Four Horsemen, him and Mongo. I haven't seen Arn
Anderson since we started watching. Yeah, I don't think they're.
I think Arn at this point is retired. I think he retired.
Yeah,
in 97.
but he was still the voice. He was still the enforcer for the Horsemen during this era.
Right. What I'm saying though is that I don't think he was really out and about even when after he got injured, he had that neck injury. I don't think he really did anything because he had that well-known kind of retirement speech on Nitro, and then it was Hall, X-Pac, and Nash who came out and dressed up as
But I thought Arn still came out with the Horsemen.
But once again,
like manager level.
I think the last time that we had the Four Horsemen, I think it was Arn, Flair, Mongo, and Hennig were the Four Horsemen. And then obviously Hennig turned, betrayed them and went to the NWO. Then you've got the fact that Arn's not really around anymore. Flair's kind of just like a drifter at this point. And so now you got Mongo, who's like the only guy that's walking around with the four fingers in the air. And it's just it's kind of awkward.
I mean, Mongo's kind of awkward, so who knows? We're going to come back from commercial, and they're going to show the replay that we just saw with the brawl. Which Tony really had a kind of struggled trying to get that out, what happened. We're going to move into our next match of the night. Could be arguably the match of the night when you've got Chris Adams wrestling Buff Bagwell. I had to laugh when Buff was coming out. They showed him up on their little Minitron, and he was digging himself some Buff. Chris Adams, meanwhile, is going to come out to what sounded like the theme from the Olympics. But what I'm really most surprised by, Haddix, is you do not remember Chris Adams.
No, not at all.
How can you not remember he scored a pinfall on Macho Man on the
debut episode of Thunder, man?
The debut match of Thunder.
Did he really?
Yeah,
that was the guy who beat Macho Man.
Luger came out and hit the Macho with a chair.
Right. J.J. Dillon later reverses the decision, but Chris Adams, quote unquote, had the initial pinfall.
God, didn't even remember that.
Yeah. This is when, of course, Lee Marshall is going to mention that Buff looks like his body was sculpted by Michelangelo, and Chris Adams throws some of the worst working punches I've ever seen in the business. That said, he's going to dominate this match because why not? And thank God for Vincent to come in, interfere, kick Chris Adams off the top rope, which is going to lead to the blockbuster for Buff Bagwell. Buff's going to get the 3 count. The fact that he even had to have interference from fucking Vincent in this match is why I rated it 1.25 stars. This match sucked. It was not a squash match, and the fact that they even made Chris Adams look strong is a crime to Buff Bagwell.
I kind of agree. I gave it a 1.75 stars. I felt like it was meant to be a squash, I guess, but it didn't give Buff any favors because yes, you're right. Chris Adams wiped the floor with him throughout most of the match. Including a kind of a half-decent pile driver. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. But yeah, like I said, early offense by Buff, and then it was just nothing but Chris Adams offense after that. He was on the verge of losing. I think we've discussed this in the past too, where like when Luger was a heel and like he's fighting against like Hacksaw Jim Duggan and is getting his shit kicked in. And the only way he won was that when Jimmy Hart would distract, which makes no sense because Luger should have no problem at all with someone like Hacksaw Jim Duggan or a Prince Iaukea or a Scotty Riggs. And then yet, like, he struggles. So, yeah, once again, no favors are being given, but it seems like the same formula.
I can't argue with you guys, but I gave this a 2.5, and there's a couple reasons.
Well, we can argue with that.
Well, yes, the reasons I did though are, one, it was actually a match. There was a little bit of back and forth that lasted longer than 30 seconds.
It was a match. I felt like it shouldn't have been a match, but I agree with you there.
And again, I can't necessarily argue with that, but again, it was finally. And I love me some Buff Bagwell. He is a great heel. I love his strutting. And did either of you notice his little teabag pin at the end where he kind of like sat on his face when he pinned him?
I did not, and now I'm disappointed I didn't pay attention.
It was like I literally laughed.
He poses while he pins as well.
I love it. I love me some Buff.
Well,
I think it's just funny because he gets his ass kicked most of the time, hits his finisher, and then acts like he just absolutely whooped on Chris Adams, which is kind of funny.
Speaking of Buff Haddix, you were in the crowd holding the next sign that we see is Buff Bragswell. So
let's see what they did there.
And then we're going to get our sixth sign of the night, calling out Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's going to say, "Hey, Austin, you're no Goldberg." So we got Oklahoma City here spitting fire at the WWF.
They've gone downhill since the suck dick sign.
Yes, they can't all be that good. We're going to get a special look at Juventud Guerrera here, which kind of surprised me, which is Mike Tenay discussing Juventud Guerrera, all his highlights, the 450 splash, air hoovy, springboard dropkick, and this is when they're mentioning that he's putting his mask and his legacy of the Guerrera family on the line at Super Brawl against Chris Jericho. That was the way Jericho and him could have a title match, is if he puts a mask first title. And this is going to lead to our next match of the night, Chavo Guerrero Jr. versus Chris Jericho for the Cruiserweight title.
Yeah, what the fuck? What did Chavo have to give up?
Just a little bit of time on Thunder, apparently.
Yet again, we could all guess who's going to win this match. So.
Yeah, this was... The fact that they even did it back-to-back like that, I just laughed. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Jericho's going to come in. Billy Silverman's not going to put up with any of Jericho's antics. You know, Jericho wants to wrestle with the belt on, the whole ordeal. This match is going to be actually okay match. It's going to end with a tilt-a-whirl reversal into a lion tamer. I gave it 2 stars. The two could put on a better match, but I thought it was solid for what they had. Hoagie, what'd you think?
It was a short match. I mean, you give them what time allotted they're given. I did enjoy one of Heenan's... one of his best quotes of the night was he was talking about Macho and I think Hogan and them and Bischoff saying like, "I hate liars." And then at the end of the match, after Jericho wins, he goes, "I like this guy. He's insincere. He lies. He cheats." So I thought that was classic Heenan. I also noticed too that after he wins, Jericho's actual WCW music plays. Like they didn't get rid of it.
And I didn't pay attention to that. I kind of want to go back and listen to see if someone on the network screwed up there.
But yeah, once again, it was a good match, good chemistry, good pace, a couple of nice moves. I'm glad Jericho obviously won cleanly because he has a mask match in 10 days.
I get a 2.5 as well. I love Chris Jericho. I feel like, I don't know if this is a hindsight thing, but you guys could attest to this or comment on this because you watched it back then. But I don't know how people at WCW didn't see him being a bigger star because the dude just delivers every match.
His size, they just didn't care. They were still in the era of what made Hogan.
Oh, like the big, yeah.
It's a big man's league.
Which is weird considering that he goes to a company like where Vince is there and where Vince is even more enamored by like the bodybuilder type. But I think also the reason too is that Jericho was just never buddy with the people he probably should have been buddy with to get pushes in that company.
Well, that's you're right.
I don't think he never really got along with guys like Nash and Hall and Hogan and all the politics. He tried to. A lot of his angles that he did, I know a lot of people don't know this. A lot of the angles he went out there because he would be like, "Hey, I've got a 5-minute spot or 10-minute spot to go out the mic. What do you want me to do?" And they're like, "Yeah, we don't fucking care." So Jericho just went out there and put himself over.
His own thing. Yep. Yeah, and he made a great living for himself. That Jericho.
The 1,001 holds, still one of the greatest promos I've ever seen.
After the match, Juventud's going to come out. They're going to get into it for a minute. Jericho, of course, is going to grab for the mask, teasing that he's going to rip off Hoovie's mask. But Hoovie's going to escape his grip. He's going to back body drop Jericho to the outside. Jericho grabs his title, pushes Billy Silverman, and runs away. So get a little bit more heat there going on. Our following match, Sick Boy versus British Bulldog. And Lee Marshall, unfortunately, not going to call this match because out comes Eric Bischoff, who kicks Lee Marshall out, which kind of made me laugh. Lee Marshall basically just getting kicked out left and right tonight in his commentary position.
Large dump number 2, is what I call it.
Bischoff is going to bury Roddy Piper while also promoting his new movie, or his movie They Live, which is going to be on Movies for Guys Who Like Movies tonight after Thunder, which I thought was kind of funny. While Bischoff's claiming conspiracy against the NWO. British Bulldog is going to hit a running power slam for the win over Sick Boy, who thinks looks like Val Venus if you put a towel around his waist. I gave it a star and 3/4. It was a short and boring match. What did you guys think?
I gave it a star and a half. Mainly because no one should have cared about this match, and all I was waiting for was, I'm actually shocked that the match went all the way through. I assumed Mongo was going to come out before the match even ended.
Oh, yeah, I gave it a 2, same reasons. I had predicted that Bulldog was going to come out during Mongo's match, and to what Hoagie said, I assumed that Mongo was going to come out and interfere in this match, although he does wait for some reason. I don't know why.
Mongo, being ever the gentleman, following the rules of WCW, lets British Bulldog cleanly beat Sick Boy before he does come out and interfere in the match. He attacks the Bulldog. Security tries to break him up, which someone on the commentary team says it's going to be tough breaking up those Brahma Bulls. So
I noticed that too.
Somebody's got
are we all the same team where we didn't even know what a Brahma Bull was until we watched wrestling? I've never even heard of a Brahma Bull.
I know what a bull is. You know?
No, I know, but I'm saying a Brahma Bull.
Yes, I think we're all on the same page there.
Okay.
After this, we got our second replay of the night, which is the last week's Thunder's main event where the Flock interfered during that Benoit versus DDP match that we were kind of hoping would be a good title match, which is going to lead us into the Chris Benoit versus Raven match. Raven's going to start out early, attacking Benoit during his entrance.
Which looked like it hurt, by the way.
Yeah, it did.
He drop kicked him in he was like full sprint drop kicked him from behind. Like that had to have stung a little.
And Sting wasn't even there to do it, right?
The Stinger wasn't even there.
Of course, it's Raven's rules, which means there's a drop toe hold into a chair in the middle of the match happening at some point. And then it's going to lead to a very entertaining segment where Benoit's going to really push and kind of hold that chair in between the top and middle rope, really forcing it in there. And Irish whipping Raven into it multiple times, and each time he goes back in and kind of forces the chair back into place. And eventually Benoit's going to go for a spear, but Sick Boy was hiding in the waiting, pulls Raven out of the way, so Benoit's going to spear the chair into the corner. Benoit's going to do 4 German suplexes without letting go, so he was doing Suplex City long before it was, the cool thing to do. And as you can imagine, out come the rest of the Flock, and the bell rings, which, Hoagie, you and I both thought the same thing. We thought Raven's rules meant no disqualification. Raven's rules must just mean you could do a drop toe hold onto a chair during the match, and that's okay, but Raven's Flock cannot interfere in his matches.
No, they can't. They most definitely can. All right. I have a rating, a shitty rating for this match because of that. But no, I know there have been plenty of matches where the whole point of it was Raven always wins because the entire Flock can get into the match and beat the shit out of Raven's opponent. That's the whole point of Raven's rules.
Well, to defend the ref, he didn't ring the bell when the first 2 Flock members interfered. It was the third member where he finally ring the bell. So it's a numbers. Once 3 come in, DQ.
I'm still not going to go with it.
I just looked on Wikipedia under professional wrestling match gimmicks, and World Championship Wrestling utilized the term Raven's rules for hardcore matches involving the wrestler Raven. They also created their own specific brand of a hardcore match for which bouts were begun backstage rather than the ring. So all it says is hardcore. It doesn't specify.
Which means you could use the chairs and stuff, but yeah.
But it does not it means you can use chairs and stuff. It does not necessarily mean
the DQ.
It's a straight no DQ match. So
yeah.
Maybe that's all it is.
I looked it up. I actually looked it up earlier. It says for hardcore matches. However, Raven's rules, also known as no disqualification, also known as no holds barred, which means you can have outside interference. That is fine, and it does. it happens.
We
like,
just
it
need to
happens
get
all
Nick
the time.
Patrick on the phone here. Get down to the bottom of this.
Yeah, I guess so. Because who was this? This was Charles Robinson.
I don't have it written down, and I don't remember who it was. At the time.
I think it was, and he fucked. Oh, I'm not saying he fucked up, but I'm sure he was told he needed to ring the bell when he was supposed to ring the bell.
Right.
But no, Ravens rules for sure. You could have everyone come in because that's how Goldberg won the United States title. Like,
hey, dude, come on.
Oh,
man.
dude, I didn't know that happened, bro.
Dude.
Oh my god, dude.
Well, if you're not busy spoiling this match, Kyle, I'm just going to go ahead and say I gave it a 1 3/4 for Chris Benoit versus Raven. Obviously, just more storytelling for the Benoit Raven thing than anything. Really, not much of a finish though. And you gave it even less than me, Kyle.
Yep, I gave it a 1.5 stars. I said outside of the cool German suplex spot, the match was both uneventful and also goes against Raven's rules. Only thing that really happened during this whole match was the spot with the chair wedged. I mean, there really wasn't else. If you really look at it from that perspective, it was a 4 to 5 minute match where only 2 things happened, and so it definitely wasn't. It wasn't a match that I felt Raven and Chris Benoit could, they definitely could have upped their game and put a much more interesting match. If it was going to be a hardcore match, then use that time for that. But it was very.
We can't say the word hardcore in 1998 on WCW television. That's why we have Ravens rules.
Ravens rules. Because the whole point of Ravens rules that I always liked was that there was at least always going to be a clear winner, not a DQ finish. Someone's going to pin somebody, someone's going to submit, and that wasn't the case in this match.
Haddock, you were a little kinder to this match.
I gotta tune up. Like, to me, this is an average match on Thunder, and now maybe that's not fair because Thunder's not as great as Nitro or as Raw soon becomes or whatever.
This is coming from the guy who's never seen an episode of Nitro.
That's not true. I've seen multiple episodes of Nitro.
Oh,
but I digress. But again, one of the things I did like about it is there is a story being told between Raven and Benoit and what happens afterwards and stuff like that. So I did give it a 2.5.
I guess if you did watch the first episode of Thunder, you did see at least one whole episode of Nitro since they did recap the whole show.
Exactly. There you go.
There you go.
Boom. After the match, DDP is going to come out to help clear the flock out of the ring. Speaking of rings, Saturn's going to come in and hold the rings of Saturn on Chris Benoit.
I hope you wrote that in your notes to say that.
I did not. It just came to me as I was reading my notes here. Saturn, of course, is going to end up running, and Benoit and DDP are going to look at each other, and Benoit's going to say, I don't need your help. So, they might both be baby faces, but there's still a little competition, little animosity, a little bit of a, I don't know.
A little bit of a wedge. Yeah, there's a wedge.
There's something there. But then we got our next match of the night. Glacier versus Bill Goldberg. Haddix, what'd you think about the other Mortal Kombat ripoff?
So Mortis was obviously kind of a knockoff, but kind of had his own thing. This to me is, it's Sub-Zero. Right?
No, I mean that's exactly what. If you had watched from there's plenty of promos building him up. This was a direct. Bischoff loved Mortal Kombat. That's why he made Mortal Kombat characters as wrestlers.
Yeah, it's insanely close to it, but that explains it. I didn't realize that, but that explains it because basically it's Sub-Zero walking around. So
unfortunately, Glacier cannot cast frost bolts. Instead, all he can do is use his martial arts. That said, Goldberg's going to out martial arts him with a backflip handspring kind of move, which I don't think any of us saw it coming. He's going to use this twisting neck breaker. He's going to eventually no-sell some of those great kicks that Glacier is known for. He's going to bounce off the ropes, spear, jackhammer. This was a 1.5 stars for me. It wasn't even much of a Goldberg match. Hoagie, what did you think about it? And also, I'll let you go ahead and give the Lee Marshall comment of the night.
Okay, so the Lee Marshall comment of the night definitely was because of the fact that Goldberg was pretty much no-selling everything. He said, all that's missing on Goldberg are the bolts on his neck. And then he pauses. No one says anything. And then he goes, fire good.
Because I don't think anyone realized what the hell he was talking about.
Right. I was waiting for him to say, after he said fire good, he was going to sit there and go, Frankenstein. just to make sure
I'm saying he's like Frankenstein.
If he had said Frankenstein, I mean that would have trumped every Mongo quote that ever existed. The fact that he went one quote to then making it smaller to hopefully everyone gets it to then just saying the obvious. I loved it. I thought it was actually hilarious. Well done, Stagger Lee. I gave this a 1 3/4 stars. Usually I give a standard Goldberg match a 1.5 just because it's a standard Goldberg match that nothing happens. I gave the extra quarter because of the backflip. The spear was meh. But the one-handed jackhammer I thought was kind of cool. They just held the Glacier up with one arm the whole time.
One-handed jackhammer is what the ladies used to call me in high school.
Is that what you call yourself alone in your bed?
Haddix, you also had a good rating for this match because of different quotes.
I gave it a 5-star for one quote. I have a hunch he's going to melt this glacier. I mean, come on, dude. That's just a fantastic line right there.
Which jabroni said that one?
I believe that was Heenan.
That was Heenan.
Okay.
Yeah. But that just, dude, I literally laughed out loud when he said that. I was like, that's like a dad joke right there.
It really is.
But no, in actuality, 1 3/4. It was a Goldberg match.
After this, we're going to get our main event, Ric Flair versus Lex Luger. And as for this match, you can all pretty much guess how it's going to end. The match itself, though, there was a superplex spot that it looked like he almost flipped him too much in the air, and it was going to land ugly. I mean, it didn't, but man, I watched it. I was like, ooh, it was almost like somebody tried suplexing and the other guy tried flipping too much with it. It looked ugly.
I felt like Flair was 2 inches away from getting accordioned on that, and I was like, oh my God, that would have been horrible.
It would have been awful. He is going to get accordion when Lex goes to put him up for the rack, but Flair flails his feet and hits Randy Anderson, so classic spot there. This is going to lead to Ric Flair attacking the knee. He's going to lock on the figure 4 in the middle of the ring. Flair's going to slap Luger a few times while he's got it going on.
I love that.
Lex, of course, is going to Hulk up then, reverse the figure 4. Hold on. Out comes Macho Man to end this match in yet our now 6th consecutive fucking disqualification on a main event for Thunder. Star and 3/4 for me. It wasn't a great match, and it's another fucking disqualification finish. What'd you guys think about it?
I gave it a 1 3/4 as well. I don't know why I didn't have it on the notes. That's my bad. It's on my notes. I kind of for the same things. They only had about 5 minutes. I thought maybe this match would be good. They've had plenty of matches in their career. They know how to wrestle each other. But looking at the time that was left in the show, I'm like, okay, well, this match is going to be about 5 minutes long, which is not long enough for Flair. Anyways, Flair always does well when matches are at least probably 8 to 10 minutes long, and this kind of showed it. I said some cool spots from Flair just because Flair's hilarious. And another DQ finish. This one I was, I guess, sort of okay with because nobody really, I guess, gains an advantage or disadvantage for winning this match. It was kind of just like a highlight. 2 headliners, being in a main event. There was no really storyline that I could remember between these 2 in particular. So this would be a match that it makes sense for a DQ and to have some guys come out and spill out and carry a story. So this was actually one of the few DQs I was okay with.
I gave it 2.5, and it might have been more just because I'm a little starstruck. Watching only Thunder, you don't get to see these guys every week. As a matter of fact, has Rick been on? I know he wasn't on last week.
It's been a couple weeks for him.
He fought Jericho. He beat Jericho on Thunder.
That might have been, so then that was at least 2 weeks ago. But either way. I love seeing Ric Flair and Lex Luger and stuff like that. So while the match itself wasn't necessarily one of their greatest, I just kind of enjoyed seeing them. And I do kind of agree with Hoagie a little bit. I'm okay with the DQ finish on this one, although it is 6 in a row, which is kind of crappy. But I'm okay with this one because, to Hoagie's point,
right. The trend is crappy. The trend is shitty.
Yes,
the trend is shitty, but this match it made sense in at least.
Of course, after the disqualification finish, Hogan's going to come out and attack Macho Man. Then out comes the entire NWO to attack Luger and Flair, and out comes Sting to save the day. And that's pretty much your Thunder overall. What did you guys think about the show? Haddix, let's start with you.
Again, I thought it was another below average Thunder, which maybe that's just Thunder. I don't know. I guess time will tell. But the only upside this week that I enjoyed were the presence of Flair, Luger, even Hogan's. I don't know if he's even been on every week. So I like when we see them, although it's never, great wrestling when we do.
Yeah, I agree. I think last week we complained that there really wasn't any. I don't think we had Sting or Luger or Macho or Flair or Hogan. It was definitely your mid Carter guys. I think Nash might have been there if I recall. Maybe DDP. No, I'm sorry. Nash wasn't there. I believe Scott Hall was there. But this time I think we definitely had a lot more of the high dollar. The main eventers showing up, whether they were in matches or not. There was plenty of wrestling. I actually give Thunder some credit that it wasn't a whole lot of recap. There was some. I think they also replaced recaps with a couple of promos. With I think this time we had Hoovy and I think the Steiners. But the wrestling was mediocre at best. Another DQ finish. We already talked about that. We did get the final appearance from Louie Spicolli. So I mean, I think at least felt like
we got some closure there.
Yeah, the last memories that we have of Louie Spicolli are of nothing but smiles and laughter.
I'll give you that. Amen. R.I.P. Louie Spicolli. Unfortunately, the Thunder overall was a bad show for me. I thought, to your point, Kyle, there was a lot of matches, but I didn't think there was many good matches on the card. Of course, they're pushing that Hogan Macho Man storyline. And a lot of the bigger stars were on the show, but I really didn't care about most of them. I wasn't invested in this show. I kind of hope things pick up as we get closer to the biggest day in the history of our sport.
Yeah, they mentioned, I was going to say before, Shivani made a point earlier talking about how that was going to be the greatest main event or the best world title rematch in the history of the sport, and then he was talking about how the Bulldog and Mongo are probably the toughest guys in the history of our sport, and then said that the Steiners versus Nash and Hall were going to be the greatest rematch for a tag title in the history of our sport. I was like, Tony, we get it, man. You are the hype man. But it was always funny that he speaks in such superlatives all the time.
That's what he does, and that's our show for this week. So if you haven't yet, go subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play. Follow us on Twitter at ThunderCraps, and you can always go to thundercraps.com for all of our past episodes, social media handles, all that kind of stuff. And all that said, we are going to be right back here next week, breaking down the February 19th, 1998 edition of Thunder, the post-Louie Spicolli era, if I may say so. For Kyle Hoagland, for Josh Haddix, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thunder Craps Podcast.
Adios.
Fire good.